In the words of Tony Olisambeki, we have converged again in our sanctuary, the one place where we pontificate the truth, taking a look at happenings in and around Nigeria and also making sense of the developments. Over the weekend on Friday precisely, a maniac was killed in a local government, Haji Egbema, Imo State. Unfortunately, that circumstance has a lot of complex and complicated, analogy surrounding it. And also, Borno State witnessed bomb strikes, which unfortunately left a trail of collateral damages. Now, for better context, it was the military trying to clear out these insurgents, these bandits, and that particular move left a trail of collateral damage, raising the question of how precise we are when we strike, especially where we know exactly what we are warring against. All of these and many more developments we get to take a look at. Over the weekend, Mr. Peter Ebi was somewhere in the southeast speaking about the faith inspiration program, and he said a couple of things that have got the people talking. We'll take a look at those and more. I am Chisom Chinedu. Good morning to you and welcome. Franklin Ebuka is here as well. Good morning, Franklin.
Good morning, Chisom. Good morning to Tony and everyone listening to this very morning. What a sad way to start this very week, because what happened in Borno State, or the border between Borno and Yobe State, is getting so much attention in the country, because from what we get at now, up to 15 persons have been confirmed killed from that very airstrike. And what is troubling people is the fact that people who were killed weren't bandits, neither were they terrorists, rather civilians who had converged at a market to exchange businesses. But from what we know so far, and the military has defended its actions, saying that it struck based on intelligence after coordinated efforts. I also read a statement which was issued by Borno State government saying that that market was closed 5 years ago, perhaps trying to align with the military that the strike was conducted on terrorists. But we now have two conflicting reports where people were claiming that people who were killed were civilians. Military saying that those who were killed, were not civilians, rather it struck based on air precision. But now the good thing is that they said they are going to investigate, and we are hoping that at the end of the investigation they should be able to clear us on what actually happened, because it appears like Nigeria is becoming synonymous or becoming known with erroneous airstrikes, like the one we're having now that happened this April 2026. If you cast your mind back to 2025, we also recorded such incident in 2025 in Zamfara State. In 2024, we also had similar incident that was in Sokoto State. 2023, it happened too. So it appears as if we keep on having this in every year. And away from that very incident, let's talk about what happened over the weekend. That was on Saturday, where despite INEC the recognition of ADC, The party went on to conduct congresses in states across the federation. In some states, we find out that court stopped the congresses, but in many other states it held. Interestingly, in some of these states where the congress is held, we saw parallel new executive emerging. And it gives me trouble and concern that a party that is just trying to come together and see how we can wrestle power from the ruling party, and they're having factions emerging at state level. In the southeast, for instance, apart from Anambra, Abia, and Imo State, two other states in Ebonyi and Enugu State, there were parallel congresses where two parallel, factions were claiming legitimacy on that. Then talk about what has been trending regarding George Amopeton, INEC chairman's alleged partisanship. I must tell you, it got to the highest level over the weekend where several claims have been adduced. Some people put out information on the internet claiming that they were able to verify, and the account which was denied by Amopeton was traced to him. So a whole lot has happened in that very area. And on a final note, talk about Donald Trump. He gave an order that U.S. should get into Iran, precisely in the area of Strait Hormuz, where they're going to ensure that it is blocked. I don't know what is going to happen, because over the weekend there were these very negotiations, but from what we gathered, U.S. and Iran, they agreed on other things except on nuclear weapon, and U.S. is not finding it very funny. So U.S. President Donald Trump is threatening that U.S. Navy is going to move into the Strait of Hormuz to ensure that the route is blocked and what have you not. And at the same time, Trump fired at Pope Leo, criticizing him that he's keeping mute while Iran goes on to enrich its nuclear ability and what have you. So a lot actually happened over this weekend. So by the time we get into this very conversation, we'll be able to delve into each of them and then make sense out of it.
Absolutely. Dr. Tony Olisambeki is here as well. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, Chisom. Good morning, Franklin. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, the good people of Southeast. Good morning, Ndi Anambra. Good morning, Ndi Onitsha Donedu. Good morning, Ndi Osumo. Good morning, Ndi Nazwafia, Ndi Nalolo Yibo. And also Ndi Naloluaka. Because these are the three critical sect of people: Ndolwaka, Ndoloyibo, Ndenazwafia. And also those who are into different services, ensuring that these services are well provided. Service providers of all sorts, of all kind. The good ones among them, the security agents, the good one amongst them. I know very well that from time to time, issues about security keep surfacing. Of course, we were able to be privy to the wireless message from the Inspector General of Police on Latunjiri one this where he made it so clear to men and officers of the Nigerian Police Force that the period or the era where extortion, harassment, molestation, some of these things, according to him in that wireless message, these things are over. That policemen henceforth shall not bear bags. There are some set of policemen that wear bags. The idea is to fit into investigation and other things. But this time around, he has disbanded policemen wearing beards in the neighbor of one, and also saying that the eyes will be on them. But for me, it's not enough. Once we have not implemented monitoring, what are you going to use to monitor them?
Tech-driven monitoring.
That is just that. Because if you do all these things, you send wireless message and all that against extortion, harassment, intimidation, trying to ensure that human rights, rule of law, these things are promoted. How do you monitor it?
Who's going to make sure it doesn't happen?
And where it does happen, how would you even know? And you wouldn't wait when complaints come. There are people that is not in their nature to complain. They will just take it home. The truth remains that we have a long way to go. We must also appreciate religious leaders and traditional leaders. Most times we do not acknowledge them. Why? Because so many of them are so much materialistic. They are so much concerned about money, leaving those values that these two noble professions are known for. But we have to acknowledge the good ones as usual. Because when we talk about the rot in the society, it is so devastating. But we have to acknowledge that those who are not so much hungry about if and Kowa, they are so much concerned about the spiritual things. They are not worldly. But we will keep saying for sure that this is our sanctuary where we profess the truth. And in fact, the best song that fits this will be this song that usually goes by "Into Your Sanctuary." But it's true. Into your sanctuary, we have come to adore both the God and also the truth. That's what we are here for. I know Franklin will be more familiar with the song, but Chisom will not be familiar with the song. I know Chisom will not be familiar with the song, but Franklin, I know.
I am a child of the world.
See, Strebulator.
I am a child of the world now.
If you see Chisom this morning, you understand what I'm saying. If you see her this morning, in fact, maybe those who are watching us via the camera, that will not be shown anyway. So you don't need to waste your time. But it's good. But good thing about her is that she's good. Apart from the fact that she has professed worldliness. But the good thing is that within herself, she knows what is right and what is good. But let's quickly wrap up by saying that you are welcome. We thank God Almighty for His mercy, for His grace, for His love, for His kindness. Today is the 13th day in the month of April in the year 2026. Of course, we would say we are done with Easter, but the work lies ahead. Sit back and enjoy the program.
I'm sorry to take us a bit back. This is because there are two things I observed last week. Unfortunately, I wasn't here to bring them on the table, but then it is still not it's not still actually. Yesterday night, I observed a soldier guarding a private individual. I don't care about his rank. Last I checked, we agreed that we withdraw people from certain forces like the police and the military from guarding private individuals. I wonder how we say one thing and we do another thing. Also, last week, was it on Thursday morning, around the Mo Junction, I was intercepted by some boys who allege to be on traffic control duty, but being constituted by the mayor of Idemili. That place is south, north.
Yeah, Idemili North.
That place is Idemili North. And I asked myself, really? Now local government mayors now constitute their own traffic regulation authority. But this is what is most heartbreaking about the way we set traps for fellow citizens. You get to DMGS, Tony, you look at the floor, you see that there is not very clear, but the stop sign is clear.
Yeah.
When you get to Broad Junction today, please look again if you're coming from this side and tell me if you can see even remotely where that line, there is no stop sign. It's just a very, very faded patch of supposed lines.
Where you're supposed to stop.
When I mean faded patch of supposed lines, this is because they've all how there's some have cleaned off in patches, but when you come down and when they hold you, you go back there, you would actually see a line.
Yeah.
But it's really, really, it's not something that, if you are not used to that place, you wouldn't know that there was ever a line there. And so I am curious to find out how things as basic as that, if you intend to ensure regulation and obedience to a law, I like to think that things like that should be clearly marked out, especially since most of us, it was my first time of flying that road in a very long time. And then this group of vipers, I dare say, they come out with spikes, nails on out to harass and all of that. And I keep asking myself, is this how we're going to get the country that we desire?
Well, it's embarrassing if you ask me. Very, very embarrassing. I have said it many times. Some of these regulations are meant to be corrective, not to be punitive. Punitive in the sense that you are all out to look for those who you believe that you can extort from. Because there's nothing different from just normal extortion we have on our ways. The roads, I've heard the government many times saying, go and make sure that the roads are well marked.
Okay.
But for me, I think it may not stop at the roads being marked. There could be a small sign post that will tell you, stop, where you have to stop, because we have the red one. But there are some meters you have to stop before the junction. But these guys that are concerned about getting those people, bundling them out of their vehicle, doing all manner of
Let
unprofitable
me shock
things.
you. Let me tell you what happened. I accosted them because I had to pull a few plugs. I parked, I came down, I went there, I made a video of the line, and I told them to their faces, this is a trap for unsuspecting citizens, and this is absolutely wicked. This is not a regulation. And when I came back, they had put an orange, that plastic orange kind of
Cone.
Yeah, the cone, yes, the orange cone. Which means it was supposed to be put there all along. But they removed it until somebody had to tell them, you're going to get reported to the authorities.
And they have to bring it
And
back.
they now had to bring it out.
But no, that tells you that for us as citizens, we have a role to play. If you had not played that role, probably more people would have been extorted.
Unfortunately.
And the truth is, we must always ensure that the right things are done at the right places at the right time. You don't keep quiet. If you have not come out, there are those that who wouldn't get concerned. We are all part of this project. We have a better society, the one that reflects the kind of the people we are or the stuff we are made of. I have said it many times, most of these places where you have good government or good governance as we call them, the citizens did more before now. If not for the citizens, police in UK will not be wearing body camera. They wouldn't be wearing, because many of them came out and said no. Their intimidation, humiliation, extortions, harassment, violation of human rights, these things were so in ascendancy prior to the police wearing body cameras. If the citizens hadn't come out to make such a plea, they may not by now have body cameras. And it was something that, before you know it, it started happening in so many other European countries and even United States of America. The question is, when are we going to have our own police wear body camera? Because it's a way to monitor them, their utterances, their conduct, the way they relate to the citizens. These things will be well captured, and somebody will be at the office watching over them. And when they know that they are being watched over, I tell you, their professionalism will rise by more than 70%.
I totally agree.
But we have the resources. Can we get it done?
Can I add something? Because when the purpose of a mission is not well defined, abuse is definitely going to happen. What I just want to use a case to cite an example so that you understand where I'm going to. Because what I discovered is that in some places where we have traffic light and we have some enforcers, those enforcers who are there, they are not just there because they want people to comply. They are there because they want people to flout it so that they will make money off them. So that's why where they're supposed to have markings, they won't have the markings. Where they're supposed to have indications, they won't do that. So that because their job there is to lay ambush and see who they're going to extort. Take for instance, I'll give you an instance with what happened at BNG's one day. I just came around that very place and I saw that, when you come to traffic light, if you're coming from this Udala street and you're headed towards any other direction, you're supposed to maintain one line. Let's say if the traffic light is red, it's supposed to be on a one line, so that those coming from Oguta Road or whoever will be able to pass. But this tipper driver just went and blocked the other line, and before you know it, there was a traffic congestion. And I went to one of the enforcers there and say, can you please go to this very man and tell him that he needs to drive backwards so that people will be able to make. And he told me blatantly that was not his work.
I have witnessed it over and over again.
So he told me that it was not his work. So his work is to lay siege and see whoever that flouts so that he makes money. So the thing that applies there. And it is this very way because of the kind of because I discovered that some of them are not even paid. Rather not
They're just allowed to wear uniforms.
So once they are there, whatever you make on the road is a salary.
Now, can I also tell you
and
something?
that's why it happens.
You know what's even worse is the fact that at the end of the day, when you have people out that are supposed to be regulating something and you do not regulate them, you can't have a regulator that is unregulated. I mean, that is even why we have different arms of government. And so when you say that these people, they just stay there and they lay siege, it is nothing far from the truth. It's the absolute truth. I've witnessed it over and over and over again. And then you start to ask yourself, you are a traffic regulator. Are you not also supposed to be making sure that there is no congestion? Isn't that part of your job? As a matter of fact, do you also know that they only go after people that they know would not willingly flout this rule. This is why I say so. You will see a tricycle driver that normally rojas them. He will come and flout the traffic lights, and they will let him go. The same thing with some of the persons they already know. They will just come flout it and they let them go. But you see that unsuspecting person who makes a mistake, oh no, you are dead meat. They are just going to, tear into pieces and feed on you. And I'm really hoping that the mayors in charge of these places where these people lay siege would actually call their men back to order and do the needful.
Well, it's important because they may be getting these reports. The question is, what are they doing upon getting these reports? It's not about they have to call their men to order, or is it a case of making proper accounts or giving us a higher account? There are those, I don't know if that is the model, where the more people you get, the more commission you get. I don't know if that is the model, because there are places where the model could be you get higher commission if you dictate or catch more people. But we are not concerned about the number of people being caught or not. The question is, do the right thing. The cones must be well placed where the road users will cite them to know that they have to stop at this point. And would also want to see the mayors to move around and inspect the officers and men, since we don't have body-worn cameras readily available to ensure that people that serve the public should be well monitored. I've said it many times, but the way to go to increase productivity in this country is to monitor activities of those who have entrusted with those tasks and those functions and the duties as well. If we cannot do that, it's going to be a problem. Just like I said, we don't need to have a protest, because I know in the United States of America, before they introduced the issue of body-worn camera, it was as a result of Ferguson protests. And they started something of that was around 2009. But even before then, UK had their own. The pilot one started with Cornwall and also Devon. These were where the pilot phase of the body-worn camera started. By the time it gets to about 2016, it is widely adopted. Every public officer or anybody that serves the public, either in the force, must put on his body-worn camera, because for them it's a way to monitor. And that's why you go there, you see professionalism, that somebody wants to talk to you, he talks to you with some level of courtesy. But here, somebody will smoke, take weed, take all manner of bitters, carry gun. You have empowered an Aburu. That's what it translates to. You have given an Aburu weapon to extort, to miem. It is unfortunate. We must really bring in international best practices in whatever we do.
All right, quickly, the front pages here: The Nation, The Guardian, Vanguard, and The Punch newspapers. At The Nation here, the banner headline is "Bombs Rain on Fleeing Terrorists, Many Killed at Notorious Market." The riders here: "We shot Gili Market 5 years ago," says Zulum. Brutai, it's a necessary military action. And on page 4, how we attacked military base by Boko Haram suspect. 7 insurance companies seek approval to raise 100 billion naira. On page 1, a 93-year-old held for drug trafficking. On page 8, IG summons Ondo Finance Commissioner. On page 5. On page 8, IG declares war in highway extortion by policemen. On page 15, 100 million Nigerians captured in tax net, says Oyedele. Artisans move to enlist at CAC. On page 1, Tinubu redesigning North's economic future through Kano, says Yowata.
So let's go back to the Ghana newspaper. The big story here says Nigeria faces fiscal inflation strain as market bets on $100 plus oil rally. The story is on page 6. Oyo government denies alleged plan to remove Olubado. The story is on page 7. Failing air traffic system, missing 2.9 billion naira, worry stakeholders. Serap is on news page 5 of the Ghana newspaper. The stories beneath the nameplates. One of them says crisis hits ADC in states ahead of May 12 A schools inauguration. That story can be found on page 3. FG at final stage of 2026-2030 development plan on page 19. Tinubu adopting Abacha's approach to compromise democracy, says Tamboa. That story is on page 3. I think the second person, trying to compare the comment of Tinubu and Abacha. Gili airstrike triggers outrage as death toll rises above 60. Military orders probe on page 6. Engineers warn of earthquake threats in Lagos, Ibadan, Benin, Abeokuta. The story is on page 7. By Courtney hikes car park tariff by 169%, cites safety concern. That story can be found on page 5. And these are the headlines on the front page of the Ghetto newspaper.
On the Vanguard, debt pressure mounts. FG borrows 8.1 trillion naira in 2026 on page 11. 1,100 abducted in northern Nigeria within 3 months. That's horrific. On page 38, dozens fed dead as NAF probes Borno Yobe airstrike. On page 6, Two-Face Laolu Benjo, others set to electrify Vanguard Personality of the Year award. On page 8, Livestock Development Minister leads discussion panel at Vanguard Economic Discourse. On page 12, mixed reactions as FG cuts import duties on pharmaceutical products, rice cards, etc. On page 5, Kwankwaso explains rejecting 80%, settling for 60% in ADC deal. On page 38, and on page 9, conviction of terrorists will give hope to victims. US CSL's lawyers speak.
Okay, so the Punch newspaper now. Beside the nameplate 2027 torso, Supreme Court hears ADC PDP crisis seats Tuesday on page 8. The big story says military defense Borno strike as death toll rises. The story can be found on page 2, and it has a couple of riders. One says airstrike site, a terrorist enclave. Army Borno government insists. Yobe Sema says some victims were traders. Ex-COAS Brutai defends military action as Atiku amnesty condemned killings. Zulum warns residents against aiding terrorists. Yobe councillor claims 200 dead, over 40 hospitalized. Makinde Ladoja faults Fayoshe over alleged dethronement plot on page 8. Navy seizes 2 vessels with stolen crude on page 5. 2027 ADC mobilizes 3,000 delegates for Abuja convention. That story is on page 8. And interestingly, the convention is for tomorrow. ADC going ahead with its lineup of activities, despite INEC's derecognition of the MAC-led NWC. And the question is, would they have any implications if eventually INEC gets to recognize MAC-led ESCOs? So these are the headlines we have on the front page this morning.
All right, then we're going to dive into the conversation proper. Do not forget we are live on Facebook. Udala Radio 104.7 FM is our handle. Like, follow, drop your comment right under the video of the show. And we are heading straight into the conversation. We are almost out of time. Tony, I would have loved us to take a look at what happened in Imo State, or Chai community precisely, where Eze Paulinus Kweme was allegedly burned. He was, shot first with other 5 persons, and then he was burnt. Their corpses were burnt. There have been several reports about what eventually or really transpired there with someone who is close to the family. I spoke to someone and she said that what happened was an internal conspiracy, a situation where some of the persons in the area think that their leader, a barrister, is a Paulinus, was not being very honest with them in terms of all derivatives. And to think that this man is the first traditional ruler of that community, he was actually the one that fought for their autonomy and they got it. I am just curious to find out if the all derivatives of a community are in dispute, so much so that a person, a king, gets killed. I think 2 of the persons in the vehicle are allegedly his brothers, and then some other persons who were with him. So 6 people get killed, shot, and burned. This is not a small issue. And the police telling us that they're already investigating the matter. How much more do we count? Are we really having a case of internal rivalry here? And what are measures being put in place to make sure that this doesn't, depreciate into full-blown anarchy?
Well, it's unfortunate when we got the news of what happened in Imo State, just as you pointed out earlier on. when the royal stool of Oshia Kingdom was actually the target. We are told that unidentified gunmen ambushed His Royal Highness Eze Barrister Paulinus Ekwueme, the Ochia one of Ochia Kingdom, the traditional ruler of Ochia Autonomous Community. And that community, I guess, is in Ohaji, Ekpema, local government area of Imo State. And this incident happened along Asa Awara Road. There are those who are very conversant with that very road. We are told that this monarch had recently returned from abroad where he had gone for medical treatments. And the attackers killed him alongside 5 others in his convoy, including brothers, drivers, security aides, and set the bodies and his official vehicle ablaze. My concern is, if that was a case of internal security or internal issue or internal rambling or whatever you may call it, has it got to the point of killing somebody and setting a person ablaze? Is that the best way to address whatever internal wrangling that could have been? For me, I don't see this as internal wrangling, because it goes beyond internal wrangling. Even if the man has taken, or probably even if he had taken all the derivatives accruable to the community felt so bad that their leader or their king was using anything meant for them. The best way to address that is to get him killed with his brothers and sisters or drivers, burn him alive or set him ablaze. Is that the best way to address? And what are those derivatives to start with? Because it's one thing to allege, another thing to let us know the derivatives.
According to reports out there, Ohaji Bema houses at least 22 accounted for all sites, all drilling sites. And when I tried to dig into accounting for all exploration in Nigeria, there is no clear-cut figure. It looks like there is a lot of secrecy still in that sector. And unfortunately, when you talk about the security of our pipelines and how we can actually account for all the oil that we get, I don't know, it's a very vast conversation. But I am not here to, haggle over whether it was an internal security breakdown or an internal wrangling, or if it was unknown gunmen, as some quotas have alleged. The point is, there's still some level of volatility, because it has to be a very volatile place that there are gunshots and no one actually responds. No security agencies get to respond, and now people are killed and lynched. Tony, this doesn't happen in a minute or two, and there is no security response.
Well, the truth remains, just like I said earlier on, investigation will unravel some of these claims, whether it is this or it is that. And I have said it many times that, yes, we know very well that there is oil resource or resources in that very area. There are 6 significant oil operations linked to Shell Petroleum Development Company, even Seplat. I'm aware that there is oil well and fuel station, pipelines, gas facilities, and some of these things, they cannot be disputed or cannot be contested against. But the truth remains that killing somebody, setting him ablaze, is it a way to address whatever derivative that may have been taken away from? Just like you pointed out earlier on, there have been incidents of violence and killings, including that of the traditional ruler, and we know very well that claims and everything is going on. But before the killing of this traditional ruler, we know very well that Imo State has also witnessed killings of traditional rulers. In fact, in the entire southeast, we have had 7 since 2022 down to 2026. We have had 7 traditional rulers killed in a related manner.
So do we just keep counting?
We cannot. 4 in Ebonyi State, 3 in Imo State, if you are to add this very incident. And you wouldn't tell me that these 7 traditional rulers that have been killed in Southeast was as a result of taking over the derivatives, because the hand has been pointing to known government. But there are some angles to this that, yes, there could be internal issue within their family circle or within the traditionals too. We understand. But for me, it doesn't speak good about Southeast. Now tell me, if an investor is making plan to set up something in Imo State. What could this mean, and what could the signal be like? Just like I said earlier on, I remember in 2022, Ignatius Asa was killed in Imo State. There are other. He was a traditional ruler, rather. Even if you talk about His Royal Highness Anthony Amadi in Abombise, or you're gonna talk about these, we are people that we are more. I don't want to talk about the Ebonyi State. We've had so many in the Ebonyi State, in Ikwo, in Onitsha, I think Onitsha local government in the Ebonyi State has about 2 traditional rulers that we are murdered. His Royal Highness, I think Anthony Okorie, Ambrose Okorie, and also that of Josephat Ikebu, even Ikwo, and also Ivo. But the truth is, the killings of monarchs in Southeast have become a trend. A trend. It's a very ugly and sad development, if you ask me. It is not a good thing. Even when we think we are getting it right, or we are trying to get it better in terms of security situation, in terms of security apparatus, but look at this development. It's a very disturbing one. I don't care the issue of killing somebody as a way to settle score. It is never going to be accepted by any right-thinking person. And we are, because if you look at it, this was a case of premeditated murder. You didn't just kill him, you killed his ex, both the driver, his brothers, people in that line of convoy, killed everybody. Where did we borrow this from? When did we start killing people, and once we kill them, we set them ablaze? And you wouldn't tell me that Fulani herdsmen did this. They didn't do this. Our people did this for whatever reason. And people who have done this, this may not be the first. Yes, unidentified gunmen, because they first shot at him before they set him ablaze.
Allegedly?
Yes, that's the report. But we are going to hope and see the one the police will give, the account police will give. It is not
while you were talking, I've been making several calls to the phone number of police PRO in Imo State, so that for us to be able to hear from him, but he has not been picking his call. Because what happened in Imo State, actually, if you begin to put together the issues in that very state, you might begin to try to align with what is said, that the killing was connected to unsettled scores. Because
I'm not even speculating. This was from a close family member.
If you check the records, I can't remember the last time that we heard about this kind of killing, where a community leader was targeted, killed, and the body burnt alive. Sorry, and the body burnt. Because it's the man in question now, from what we gathered, he wasn't residing in the country, that he came in from outside the country, and he believed that he needed some security to go to his village. But despite the security, he was ambushed on his way to his community, killed, and the body burnt. In fact, I've seen a police statement on this. Police confirmed that the bodies were burnt, and the bodies have been recovered, or the burnt bodies have been recovered and sent to the morgue for autopsy, as is normal procedure. But how I wish that we're able to get on call with this police PRO, so they will be able to speak to us about what they have been able to uncover in respect to this very killing that happened in Imo State. Because, like I said, I can't remember the last time that we read or heard that a community leader in Imo State was killed in this manner. If we're talking about the Ebonyi State, we could have said it's finished altogether. But in Imo State, it's been a long while we had that. So police needs to dig deeper to actually get to the bottom of what happened. If it's linked to the internal disputes regarding oil money or what have you not, or any other thing.
Well, just like we said earlier on, before he even became the king of that very community, he was the one managing the community relations with oil companies, and also handling the issue of youth and stakeholders, and at the same time participating in discussions on issue of compensation, development projects, security concern, before he mobilized with his people to fight for autonomous community. And in Imo State, you have the autonomous community, and I know it was a plot by the government to bring development very close to the people. Unlike in Anambra State, we don't have autonomous community in Anambra State. But in Imo State, you have autonomous
I
communities.
think there are lots of them in Ebonyi State too.
And of course, the idea is to make certain villages to be independent and give them that traditional unit where they can, take charge of their own affairs. But we've seen, I don't think we can descend to that autonomous community in Anambra State. I don't prefer that.
All right, let's take a break, attend to some commercials. When we come back, we'll take a look at what happened in Borno State. Some reports say 30 bodies, some say 60 bodies. What we know is that Operation Hardin Kai struck in Borno State, between Borno and Yobe State, and the casualty figure is not exciting at all.
You're listening to Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
When you think of roofing, think of strength. When you think of durability, think of beauty. And when you think of all three combined, think Best Aluminium MFG Limited. At Best Aluminium, we don't just manufacture roofing sheets. We create protection, comfort, and style for your home and business. Whether you're building from scratch or repairing an old roof, we have exactly what you need. Our products include stone-coated roofing sheets, aluminum roofing sheets, and colored roofing sheets. But that's not all. We also offer residential and commercial roofing services, roof repairs, gutters, emergency roofing services, and even durable cookwares that bring quality to your kitchen. Visit us today at 30/32 Anyika Street, Awada Obosi, Anambra State, or call us right now on 0806 416 2374 or 0706 059 6203. Are you smart, confident, and ready to earn big? Do you have a passion for sales and marketing? Then listen up. Udala Radio 104.7 FM is calling on ambitious, result-driven individuals to join our team as marketers. No limits, no boundaries, just results and rewards. Work at your own pace, meet amazing clients, and grow your income. Sell it, share it, earn your way. Join Udala Radio and start today. Interested? Visit our station today at number 5 Okono Street, Onitsha, or call 0803 350-4206 or send your CV to udalaradio@gmail.com. Don't wait. Your success story starts here. Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
You're listening to Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
You're listening to the Polity. Get involved now.
I saw the Jilili market, situated somewhere between Gubio and Gaidam areas. We're speaking about Borno and Yobe State, was bombed. Or rather, there was an air operation, if I put it that way, because bombed might sound like it was the insurgents doing it this time. But on the eve of April 11th, 2026, the air components of Operation Hardin Kai, in coordination with the Nigerian Army, following an earlier operation that targeted and destroyed terrorist positions in that area, struck that area. And as a matter of fact, from what we understand, some reports say up to 60 civilians, up to 60 traders were caught in that crossfire. Now, according to reports, the Borno State government said it had earlier shut down that market, which has been known to be a terrorist enclave, hence the operation that was carried out there. And so I am curious to find out, Tony, how we make sense of this. And also, where to draw the line, especially where we talk about complicity on the side of the people. You know, we hear about the people paying taxes to terrorists just to do their businesses. And I don't know. It's a mess. It's a knotted mess. This is why I'm curious to find out how we're going to untangle all of this. Is this possibly a situation of the people knowing that this is like a place where business really does move, and so they had to negotiate with these people to allow them come do their businesses? I'm curious to find out. Or maybe they decided to ignore the warnings of the government, go ahead after the place has been sealed off or maybe shut down to still go do businesses there. How did we come about civilians coming to a place that has been reportedly shut down by the government, and the government coming to bomb because they know that this is a terrorist enclave?
Well, I think the truth remains that yes, the market was shut down by Governor Zulum as reported, but the people within that area made the market to be somehow active, informally though. When the market was shut down, did the government provide alternative to the people of that area? Because for them, many households depend on whatever they get from the market, and the market, we are told, is along Yobe, Borno axis, and that's the border area between Yobe State and Borno State. And we are told that market has long become an enclave for terrorists in that axis. Now, there was enough area bombing. The Nigerian Air Force jet struck that Jelili market. Well, the military said it was a precision strike. That's what they called that strike.
So do we have a failure of intelligence here that they do not know that there were civilians there? How did it happen?
It had never been a time that they couldn't have known. In fact, it is somehow inconceivable. Yes, but we are looking at the civilian casualties. We've got so many figures. Some say 40, some say 150, some say, in fact, I got a report that said about 200. I got a particular report that said about 200 people.
I saw it too.
About 200 people died. I mean, talking about civilian, not the terrorists, died as a result.
How do you differentiate between the bodies? Who is a civilian and who is a terrorist?
And we know very well that government has warned over time and asked the civilians to stay away from that market. That very market remains a target. But the civilians, for one reason or the other, maybe for not providing the alternative, and for those who believe that they will not go hungry, it's better they die while struggling or to remain hungry for some time, they decided to be at the market. And there was an operation, and it was military operation.
So how do we balance this now, Tony? Counter-terrorism and civilian safety. Where do we put, do I call it the beacon? Where do we draw the line? How do we strike a balance?
And it's just really very unfortunate, if you ask me.
Because it's not going to be the first time.
It's not the first
Remember
time.
that December 2024, if I'm not mistaken, at a prayer ground, if you recall, there was another airstrike. And civilians who had just gathered to pray on Christmas Eve were killed.
Yeah, just like you said, the military said that this was necessary evil. That the civilians were warned.
200 people are necessary.
Of course,
evil.
that's the
Isn't
way.
that a very sensitive thing
they
to
said
say?
it was necessary evil. That these terrorists have also been making use of civilian supplies. That these civilians sometimes work with these terrorists. And they went further to say that they had been warned and asked them to stay off from that very place, but they did not listen. And what happened to them happened to them. But you said it's quite insensitive, because Amnesty International and other international organizations, even the local organization, will come hard on the military. Because we're talking about the collateral damages, the civilian casualties. Yes, we are fighting guerrilla warfare, fighting insurgent, because this is a counter-insurgency fight. But are we gonna do it based on international best practices? Because it's gonna be data-driven. When you say precision, it should demonstrate precision in every sense, because it cannot be precision strike when many civilians were killed. It cannot. But we know very well that the present administration of Tinubu is making more efforts to see that this war is won. We saw how many of them were tried the last time, about 350 something were convicted out of 500 and something. And we saw the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, Latif Fadobi, was in court in person. And we also saw the Prosecutor General of the country was in court. They were all in court in person. But because before now we are saying we've not seen Boko Haram terrorists, either suspect, whatever you call them, being convicted. We saw the minister, we saw the Prosecutor General, they were all in court to see to the prosecution and also see to the conviction of about 350 something of them in a mass trial. And that to tell you the drive this present administration has against all this insurgency thing and all that. And remember, the US eye on this country, the issue of Christian persecution, and what we saw in Jos, what we saw in Benue and other places. It seems that this administration is just changing gear in their fight against insurgents, and we've seen what had happened. There are many people that will say, for the fact that these civilians were warned, they were before now. In fact, the Borno State government has also confirmed that. Some media organizations have also confirmed that they were warned. And you decided not to go out from that very place. So does it mean that the terrorists will be allowed? They will always have to use humans as shield. That's their tactics. They want to use the civilians as their own shield. So before you get us, you get us killed, you have to kill civilians. It has been the way to operate. That's the kind of guerrilla warfare. But military believes this time around that whatever that must be done to ensure that these terrorists are killed may be done.
To what end? Do we really?
Okay,
Give me a second. Let me land on that. I asked you a question, Tony. How do you differentiate between the civilian's body and the terrorists? Have we really achieved anything?
My concern is
not your concern at this point. I asked the question.
If you ask,
have we really achieved anything?
Have we achieved anything by the
having a very non-precise? If you call it a precise airstrike and you have that kind of number of alleged civilian casualties, that's not a precise word.
Because it cannot be precise. The precision must be defined within the ambit of hitting the terrorists. We know the terrorists over time have always used humans as shield. We've known that. And there are times you cannot get to them without killing some civilians. And we are the civilians, according to the military, we are warned before now to stay away from that very market, that very market has been used as enclave. And that's where they protrude to Yobe State. And Yobe State has a large Christian community. Yes, Yobe State, I stand to be corrected. They have a very large Christian community. In fact, there are those that say that Christians there have a large dominance. But the point is, are we making progress in this fight against terrorists? We saw how a brigadier general was killed the other time by these terrorists. And we also saw how a lieutenant colonel was killed. And we've seen how our soldiers have been killed by these terrorists. And they have been given spaces to meander. And I've said many times in this fight, conducting area, because they have the space. If you go to that area, police may not even be existing there. That's why I've always called for the state police, the local government police, the community police. The communities will take charge of this policing system and also ensure there is proper safety.
Okay, so Tony, what has been established is this, that the Jelili market is a Boko Haram stronghold. It is located between the border of Borno State and Yobe State, so that has been established. We have heard from Borno State government saying that the market was closed 5 years ago, and I know that in some cases you can announce the closure of markets because of maybe Boko Haram activity, security breach. The people in that area might restart the market. It's possible, and that is also a fact. If you look at our around our area, at least there are cases we can use to relate to this. Then another thing we have also established is that many people died in these very airstrikes, from the part of the government of Borno State, the part of the people, the part of the military. They have all confirmed that persons died. Now, what has not been confirmed is the number of persons who lost their lives in this. Now, the questions are, from the part of the military, because military has put up a strong defense that the airstrikes were precise, that there were intelligence, it acted on intelligence, and it was able to decapitate terrorists. This thing happened on Saturday. Today is Monday. From the point of military, have they been able to identify or ID the identity of those who were killed or those who got injured? I believe that by now they must have been doing some profile. Those who were injured go to the hospital to find out their identity, if they have any affiliation with Boko Haram or not. Then those who were killed, they might as well try to identify them to know who they are or who they were. With that, we'll then be able to have something concrete to talk about, whether those who were killed or were Boko Haram terrorists or just civilians. That's number one. The number two is this issue of having airstrikes that bring us into controversy, whereby we begin to ask questions whether it was terrorists who were killed or it was civilians who were killed. When I was doing my introduction, I made a reference to cases we have had in Nigeria. The one that happened in Borno State now, or between border of Borno and Yobe, the one we're talking about now, that happened that was 11th on Saturday, April 2026, Jilili Market. As it stands now, number of casualties unknown, but like you pointed out, different figures have been banded, and the Air Force is saying that they targeted insurgents in that busy market. It comes your mind back to 2025, like I mentioned, January 2025. There was also airstrike in Zamfara State, and military said they mistook civilians for bandits. You go to 2024, there was the same thing that happened in Sokoto State. That was in December 2024. Gidan Sama and Runtua airstrike. It happened in Sokoto State. About 10 civilians were killed, and government said, or military said, they targeted terror group, but civilians were hit. You go to 2023, one of the worst we have had in years. That was in December 2023. Tudunbiri drone attack. Casualties figure then were between 85 and 120 civilians killed. It happened in Kaduna State. Now what happened? Those victims were celebrating a religious festival where military mistook them for gathering of bandits and struck. Then you go to 2017, when we had another mistaken bombing, Borno State too. Of course, the famous Ran bombing that happened in January 2017. People who died in that attack, not less than 100, and those who were injured, not less than 100 too. What happened? Those victims were IDP persons and aid workers. And what did the military give us as an excuse? They said they thought they were bandits and they struck. There are other cases you can cite between that 2017 and 2023. The fish market bombing of 2021, we can still recall that. Village strike of 2022 to 23, you can also recall that, and plenty of that. We also had cases of military vehicle mistakenly bombed where some soldiers were killed. That was in 2021. And that brings me to the concerns, because if we have had these things repeatedly happening, there's a cause for concern. After all, if you want to speak English, you will say that a mistake repeated once can be a mistake, but when a mistake becomes twice, thrice, it can be a habit. So what should we be looking into now? Because if we have had this very case for a long time, what is the problem? Is it about faulty intelligence? Is it that we are having difficulty to distinguish between civilians and the armed groups? Is it that we're not having coordination between the ground troops and the air unit? Is it that we are relying on just area surveillance in rural areas when we have conflict in certain areas? Sonny?
Well, we know very well that you really read out some of the mistakes or misfortuned airstrikes we have had before now, and then it's quite unfortunate. Even when you look at even the one of Damasak was one of the earlier areas that we had strike. That was around 2015. But the truth remains that we've seen global examples with civilian casualties, but not as we have seen in Nigeria. I remember when US drone struck Afghanistan, That was around August 2021. We recorded or we saw civilian deaths. About 10 people were killed. And 7 of the 10 people that were killed from that US strike were children. I remember again when there was a coalition strike in Syria. That was sometime around 2019. When we talk about coalition strike, the one involving United States of America and some NATO members, it was I think they called it a Baghuz strike. About 64 people, civilian deaths, 64 died. And I remember even the Mosul airstrike in Iraq, coordinated by US, we had over 100 civilian deaths.
Tony, do me a favor. Can you add the years to these things? Because we cannot equate the mistakes of 2026 with the mistakes of 1996.
No.
It shows regression and not progression.
The Iraq Mosul airstrike was in 2017.
That's
Syria,
how many years ago? Almost 10 years ago.
Of course.
9 years ago.
And then the one of the Syria coalition strike was in 2019. The Afghanistan strike was in 2021.
7 years ago, 5 years ago.
We have had these problems, but just like Franklin raised, before conducting airstrikes, there are a number of things that must be conducted by the military. First, their intelligence. You will never joke with their intelligence.
And I asked you, what happened with the intelligence gap? Was it a faulty intelligence, or at best a decision to just count the collateral damages, which you already gave an answer to? And again, Tony, I'd like to ask, how do we keep making the mistakes of yesterday, especially when we're supposed to be progressing? Now, intelligence should be more precise because we have better technology, isn't it?
Of course.
Or is expected to be more precise. Intelligence is supposed to be more accurate. But in Nigeria, we are not making use of the necessary tools. And so we keep repeating the mistakes of yesteryears.
But the truth remains that you must do your risk assessment. There may never be a time you may not have civilian casualty, but it must be reduced. It must be at a minimal level. The numbers should be very minimal. That's more important, because apart from intelligence gathering, intelligence processing and intelligence analytics, these are things that must be done before airstrike. The targets will be well and thoroughly verified, and there must be risk assessments. These things must be on deck before the final approval. If you ask me if these things were conducted, or if these things were taken care of before the airstrike, the one we are talking about, I wouldn't know. But if you look at the number of casualties, the numbers we've seen so far, they are not really palatable. That tells you that there's something wrong. And for the fact that the market was closed 5 years ago and the villagers had been warned not to be at the market, was there any recent warning again before the airstrike? That's another thing. Was there any recent warning? Because you must be able to do your reconnaissance very well, both the ground troop and the area troops. And you must have informants. You must work with the locals. I don't know, because we are on air, there are things you don't disclose, because this has to do with security related issues.
Do you know why this thing worries me, or why this thing worries many Nigerians, not just me? Is the fact that sometimes we ask why military has not invaded some places, and they'll tell you because there are civilians there. That's why we cannot do this, because we want to ensure that civilians are not killed. We have cases where people question why military has not invaded some places like the Samisa forest and what have you not, or in cases where people were abducted. They'll tell you that their concern is the civilian casualty. So if the case we have in this Borno state, of course, okay, you got intel that terrorists do come to the market for the supplies and logistics, noted. So was that enough to strike in the market in that very manner without having precise information on who could be the casualty? I know that military, they have a way of doing their job. We're not going to teach them their job. They know these things. They know how to separate issues. They know how to use biological means to eliminate people and what have you not. They know all these things, so we can't teach them their job. But like I said, what becomes the concern is that it's becoming like almost habitual, where each time it happens, we have the same kind of narrative or the same kind of defense. I've just
said many times that there are a lot of things that went wrong. Because just like I mentioned earlier, there are times there may not be a way to avoid civilian casualty, but it must be minimal. Even if you come to international, way of doing some of these things, and maybe if you come to international principles, you can understand that there is this principle of distinction. You must separate combatants from civilians, and these things are done through drones, signals, human sources, sensors. These are ways some of these things are done. And you must not act on uncertain or weak information. I have said it times without number that precautions must be taken. And there are times, just like you say, military, you ask why that this has not been done. They say because if you do it, there will be collateral damage. I think that's the language they usually use, collateral damages. And when they talk about this, the collateral damages, they're talking about civilian casualties. And if we engage in this, there will be a problem. And this is one of the toughest scenario in fights like this, because this is unconventional warfare. It's a guerrilla warfare. It is very, very difficult because you must assess proportionality. Because if you look at it, if terrorists are mixed with civilians, will civilian harm be excessive compared to military gain? Very key question. Would the civilian harm be excessive compared to the military gain? If the answer is yes, the attack must be cancelled. If the answer is no, there may be need to go on with the attack, even if there will be civilian casualties. But the proportion must be lower to the gangs that will be made. Because if you ask the military, they will tell you that more terrorists were killed. But the numbers of civilians, that's what we are talking about. And there will be some kind of warning even before the strike. Because and you must use your informant. And another thing is, we can also consider alternatives. We can. And there are many alternatives. But the truth remains that there will never be a time we'll be fighting this kind of guerrilla warfare without civilian casualties. There will never be a time of such. But the point is, can we reduce this to the barest minimum? And I've given you cases in other parts of the world where things like this had happened. But effort must be made to win the numbers. I have said it many times. And in Nigeria's scenario, the method we are applying, for me, is not even community based. It's not a community approach. Yes, that market has been. What about Sambisa Forest? How many strikes have we had in Sambisa? Because the forest, anybody who goes to this forest to stay is a criminal. How many times have we had bombing of Sambisa Forest? We know that that forest is so large. We are told that the forest is bigger than the entire southeast. How many times have we seen that forest being bombed? Area raid, these are places we can also conduct these raids. But in the case of markets, of course, we see the casualties. Many Nigerian men and women in the uniform, they have lost their lives. From day to day, we keep hearing this story. The point is, it is so difficult. It is so difficult, but the military must improve.
All right then, Tony. Quickly, let's look at the federal government cutting import duty on pharmaceuticals, cars, and rice. And of course, a lot of mixed reactions have trailed this. People are asking if this is going to lower the cost of essential commodities, especially pharmaceuticals, if it's going to help Nigerians cope better with inflation and the cost of living crisis, if it's also going to improve access to medicine. And some persons are also asking, instead of removing import duties, how about you support local production better? Where do you stand?
Well, if you look at it, you must make sure before you adopt this policy or before you start implementation, you have done your homework. Everyone would want us to patronize made in Nigerian products, especially in these areas. Pharmaceutical products, cars, rice, and what have you. Well, the idea is this. The federal government has cut import duties on some of this, because what that means that these things are essential and we cannot replicate or produce this to the satisfaction of many Nigerians. Of course, the demands are growing, and when demands are growing, the supplies are less. For you to bring in these products, people pay through their nose. Pharmaceutical products, of course, we know very well that drugs have become so expensive, and many people are dying as a result of that. Yes. Malaria drugs are also getting even expensive as we speak currently, because it's a common issue everywhere. That is one. And then secondly, the issue of cars. Nigeria has become a dumping ground for overused vehicles. The need to waive import duties mostly to newly produced vehicles so that Nigerians can afford it. I remember in the 80s, nothing like Tokumbo. In the 80s, even in the late 70s, if you want to buy a vehicle, it's going to be brand new. How many people buy brand new vehicles these days? You ask, what has changed? In the 80s, when we used to buy brand new vehicles, in the late 70s. But it is bad governance, bad leadership that had cost Nigeria so much. I understand that under the 2026 fiscal policy measures, which was signed by the Finance Minister Wale Idun, replacing the 2023 guidelines, effective recently with a sum from April or July, tariffs were slashed on 127 lines. Anti-malaria drugs to 20%, rice, that is 50 kg bag of rice, from 70% to 47.5%, that's the import duty, slashed. So that means that we are going to buy rice more cheaper. It's going to be more cheap. Even the broken rice, about 30%. Passenger vehicle fully built, slashed from 70% to 40%. And even palm oil, sugar, I think palm oil and sugar, zero duty. We were once exporting palm oil to many Asian countries, even United Kingdom, but now we are importing palm oil. I remember the palm revolution orchestrated in the then eastern region. What has cost us all this? Nigeria made so much foreign exchange from palm exportation. Even one of the narratives rendered, I think the one where we sold to, was it Singapore or thereabouts? Malaysia. We sold to Malaysia, and now Malaysia is #1 exporter of palm in the world. Nigeria is nowhere to be found, and we have and I've said it very well. If we are in that position, I will use agriculture to turn around this country, but we must work on security.
Tony, do you think that? So Tony, do you think that the federal government thought this through well enough before going ahead to announce this? Take for instance, if you talk about the lowering of the tariff on importation of cars, you can easily say that it's going to affect or it's going to impact on the price of car imported into the country. Perhaps it can do Nigerians good for them to purchase vehicles at a lower price. Then for the dealers, they will tell you it's going to affect them. But when it comes to some agricultural produce and what have you, take for instance palm oil, is it that we're not producing enough that we are not trying to encourage import of palm oil into the country? Then talk about rice. As we speak now, farmers are crying that window federal government opened for the importation of rice might have crashed the price of rice, but it affected their production. As we speak, many of them are cautious on whether they are going to go into rice farming, this very farming season, or not. And government has also reduced import duty on rice. That means there is a chance that we can have foreign rice flooding the market and the price can come lower. In essence, Nigerians might buy rice at a cheaper rate, but in terms of the downlines that it creates for Nigerians, Nigeria might suffer in the long run, because I know there are many people who are into rice value chain now. Many young persons who are into rice processing because of what Buhari government did when it comes to blocking rice importation. So if you look at all these things on a large scale, would you say that government thought through over this before embarking on these tariff cuts?
Well, Nigerian government must have gone through some of these things and then assessed the previous administration's effort in some of the things we are talking about. I remember, just like you said, when Buhari came to power, that was in 2015. What did he do? The Central Bank of Nigeria banned access to foreign exchange for rice importers. That was a way to block importation of foreign rice. Not that it banned it outrightly, but you cannot access foreign exchange for you to bring in rice. And for you to bring in rice, you must go to the black market to access foreign exchange. And if you go to the black market, the price of black market is so high. And by the time you bring it, you have to pay a high import duties. And that's why foreign rice costs around 100 and something naira at that time. In fact, it became a something that custom officials will always harangue you on. That was the policy then. And we saw that rice became obviously unaffordable to many Nigerians. And the effort to promote and also encourage local farmers, I didn't see what it yielded. It yielded nothing for me. Because those who were farming in most of these foreign rice farmers came to Nigeria. Many of them are in Kebbi State, some are in Niger State, some are in Gombe State. Many of them established their industries there. But the fact remains that the middlemen were also there. We couldn't purchase rice. And the present government must have thoroughly reviewed everything and feel that there is need for change. And one of the changes we are seeing is reducing the import duties on rice in a way that it would also compete with the local production. It's not about...
So how do we balance this? Because if you begin rice importation and the price comes down, what it means is that some local farmers are going to go out of business, and perhaps people they have offered job but also get back to unemployment.
Ebuka, local rice farmers were selling exploitatively because of the...
We might not say they are. You know why?
Okay.
The thing is this. If you look at the cost of producing rice in Thailand or India, compared to Nigeria, they're not the same. Because in Nigeria, the cost of labor is on the high side. The cost of input, talk about...
In Nigeria?
Yeah, talk about the improved rice variety. Talk about people going to hire a tractor on their own to cultivate. You talk about the price of fertilizer and other things.
Let me shock you, because Nigeria is one of the countries that has the cheapest labor in the world. There's no doubt. Yes, the cheapest labor in the world, Nigeria. And why Chinese products are even cheap? Because of their cheap labor. Why US products and then US, UK? Because of the labor. You can't buy their things. Here in Nigeria, we've seen where the rice farmers will be given so many incentives by the government. Help. In fact, sometimes fertilizer, some of these things are subsidized by the government. And many of them who are in cooperative way of doing this business, that have been given so many incentives. And tell me why, if rice produced in Nigeria will cost 80,000 naira and the rice imported will cost 50,000. Look at the difference. We know definitely that there will be need to sustain those that have been employed and keep the market growing. But we've seen that it has not yielded so much. It has put the price of rice on the high side. What the local farmers need to do at this point is this, because we want to flood. I have said it many times. Once you flood a market with products, once supplies are everywhere, the price will reflect the value of whatever purchase made. I don't like tendencies where either the farmer, the producer, the middleman will exploit the people. Whatever government should do to ensure that people are not exploited must be done. And if you look at it, where a bag of rice is higher than minimum wage, where is it done in the world? See, the point is there should be competition. Yes, government must restrict imports. You can't just open the window where every Tom, Dick and Harry brings in anything. No. But I expect I support fully the reduction of the tariff. The idea is to also tell the local farmers that it is no more business where you exploit. Yes, for those of them in Anam side, for those of them in if you talk Wari and these are agrarian areas.
I bet you if farmers in those areas exploit, really, poverty would be far gone. I like to think that at the end of the day, there is so much mitigating against farmers in Nigeria reaching their full potential. And you won't even pretend like you do not see that, because when you look around you, these people are some of the most impoverished people. But that conversation is something we'd have another day. We are hoping that this eventually serves the Nigerian people. It makes cost of living more affordable. Things are cheaper to buy, and people can access the necessities without so much hassle. We take a break now, attend to some commercials. Once we come back, we go back to taking your calls. We open up the phone lines for you to join the conversation. Do stay. It's still the Polity on Udala Radio 104.7 FM.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Opokopinezia.
Quality bread. Wendy's bread. for your family breakfast. Wendy's bread. Opa chichane tozialo. Wendy's bread. Mama papa they like Wendy's bread. Chichane nyandu. Wendy's bread. Even children they like Wendy's bread. Oh, Wendy's bread. Wendy's bread. Get it better tasty. We go sweet your belly. Wendy's bread. Wendy's your bachichoma. Wendy's bread.
Wendy's bread, tasty bread. You can contact us on our official address, 2nd Business Park, Enugu Road, GRA, beside Onitsha, Anambra State. We also have another branch at St. Michael Plaza at Tandy Road. Also contact us on 070-1149-1571. Wendy's bread, your tasty bread.
Wendy's bread.
I want to hear no the latest where they happen. When the poor open don't enter for town. You want to upgrade your car, it day in town. For motorway get accidents, we go make and tantam. Our integrity stand first in everything we do, and we they deliver what we do. This not the latest update when I get for you. If your motor spoil and you want to fix some more, if you want to repaint some motor, power oven they run a more. Oh, but don't man against it. If I'm a financial, you go buy a car, and you put your locals, if they go power oven, Nanyoba, maybe I don't move on again, or the tam can kick off. You repent motor, go motor will accident. Put your local power oven. I know not a motor number or Babu officer, Otolocas bus stop along Owerri Road, Oba. For more inquiry, why not Kalequentia 090-1100-2200. Angelo Tolo,
Searching for a place to eat good food and still enjoy premium relaxation? Stanley World Agwoka got you covered. Welcome to Stanley SFF Restaurant and Operator Lounge Agwoka, where taste meets class. From hot, delicious local dishes to mouth-watering African and continental cuisines, pepper soup, grilled meat, rice, drinks, and many more. Everything is fresh and satisfying. Step into Operator Lounge, a calm, classy environment to chill, hang out, and unwind. Perfect for friends, dates, and after work relaxation. Chop well, drink well, and feel cool morning, afternoon, and night. Stanley SFF Restaurant and Operator Lounge, a haven for good food, great vibes, top security, and steady comfort. For further inquiry, call 0814-565-6920 or 0813-855-8009.
Are you smart, confident, and ready to earn big? Do you have a passion for sales and marketing? Then listen up. Udala Radio 104.7 FM is calling on ambitious, result-driven individuals to join our team as marketers. No limits, no boundaries, just results and rewards. Work at your own pace, meet amazing clients, and grow your income. Sell it, share it, earn your way. Join Udala Radio and start today. Interested? Visit our station today at number 5 Okono Street, Onitsha, or call 0803-350-4206 or send your CV to udalaradio@gmail.com. Don't wait. Your success story starts here. Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
You're listening to the Polity. Get involved now.
Get involved now. Put a call across to 0803-221-697-30803 827-6694. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Chicken.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, my chief speaker, Tony Risambeki.
You're welcome, it's good to have you.
Good morning, Franklin. The voice of Honorable Idris Zeme for Okuchukume JP, Ukulola, Ochendume Zeleka Uda Nose. Tony Risambeki, let me first of all thank you very much for your wonderful analysis this morning. And let me go to the point of that your wonderful analysis. The booking and the collateral damage that was made by our I knew quite well that, like Franklin said, when Gate was brought in this Nigeria, people were asking the federal government to use it. What they hang it on is that if they use it, there will be collateral damage. Now, everybody knows that in a marketplace, no matter how you do, there must be civilians in a marketplace. Tony, you made a point. Did these people investigate since this market was closed about 5 years, and now they see that the market is going on? Did they investigate the people that are operating that market? This is number one question. Secondly, when they were about to throw that bomb, if they know that the civilians must be in that market, let me tell you, the Nigeria government is always telling us a story. And I want to tell them that American people and the world are watching. Let me ask you, Tony Risembeki, if this type of thing happen in the Western world, can they go into action, swing into action like this, as our Navy did? May they take time in our people. Thank you and God bless you.
To hear the next person, 0803-221-6973-0803-827-6694. You see, Tony, when I told you that stuff like what you just told us about happened around here, I'm not sure you really believed it, but I think this one now happened. You saw it for yourself. Hello?
Yeah, very good morning to you, Chisum, Dr. Tony Sambeki, and the Franklin. This is the voice of Chidi Chukuma, joining you from Bo.
Go ahead.
The trending issue that erroneous bombing. From analysis this morning, right from the 2023 to this year, it has been a recurring decimal, and the military are giving all the flimsy excuses. The modern bombers now, the modern plane are equipped with modern technology. They have their camera and everything that will make them to work actively. But I don't know whether it is a lack of proper training. Why all this mistake? I don't want to quote any nation. I know that a human being can make a mistake, but not all the time. The same mistake every time. Then the market was failed. And why should the people be there? Did the government make alternative arrangement? I had Tony making case of that, whether there is any alternative arrangement. It is the same question that we are asking in Anambra State. If you want to demolish or to do something, did you make any alternative arrangement on the side of the government? Now, I don't want to be more Roman Catholic than Pope, because the governor has making the statement, and the military themselves are claiming that there is no error there. But the question there is how many casualties on the side of the terrorists there, the number of casualties there, how many terrorists are there? If the number of terrorists is more up to 80 or 90% above that of civilians, maybe that they may have make a good case for that. But from the number of people that died here, I think it is all civilians. And I don't know why they should be making all this claim. Let them put up every professionalism in their fight against terrorism, because those civilians are there for their protection. And also, I want to warn the civilians not to involve in any form of aiding and abetting crime. They should not allow themselves to be used as a human shield. And they should not mingle with them. Anytime they approach them, they're supposed to move out from that zone. And also, this is not the only case here. But here in Anambra State, we have the record of such occurrences. Only that nobody can speak for us. Because I know that in Olo and the close areas, there are so many erroneous bombing and the civilian casualty that nobody can make case of that. Let me stop there. Thank you.
All right, then. Well, let's hear you. 0803-221-6973, 083827-6694. We have a few more minutes to attend to your calls, and then we head over to Facebook. Do not forget, it's Udala Radio 104.7 on Facebook. Hello, good morning.
My name It's Comrade Walton. I'm calling you from Onitsha. Can I go on?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much. See, in this case now, I cannot blame the military. I must tell you the truth. I cannot blame the military. And on the other side, I cannot blame the locals, because a replica of this thing has happened in a Kosoto market, you know, where the non-state actors used to attack the military from. And whenever they are being pushed to the market where there are civilians, you know, they use that market as a cover until the military now took courage and leveled the market. So many somebody understand the market I'm talking about.
Yes.
I thought it. Now, on the other side, you don't blame the deputies, because we were told that this place are the strong roads of Boko Haram. So the state government telling the people to vacate the market, what happens after you told them nothing? And we know that these terrorists, they give these people condition for them to leave. You know, they are conditioned to, if you want it, you will do a certain things. If you fail to do it, they will tag you as a saboteur and they will kill you. So I won't blame the military, neither do I blame the civilians. You know, that is why we have been calling for state police, and we are calling on the federal government to invest more. You know, the other time, a general was killed in a horrific manner. As we were told, it was a sea vehicle. So you ask yourself, all this money that they say that, where are those monies? So it is a very bad situation. There is nobody to be blamed in this situation. I must tell you the truth. You don't blame the military. You don't blame civilians. But, you know, as we normally say, Ushika the one man, not the one boy. The government must take a decisive action. You know, the way we handle this thing, it gives me a concern. Look at the people that were brought to court. So it's not for all this, renew the killings. The ones that have been brought to court. So the federal government is not sincere in this fight against these terrorists. Look at Chetima, for the VP. You saw his remarks with these people, and the ones released by former President, President Boko Haram, and the statement can say to the Minister of Defense or whatever, and they are our prodigal sons, all these kind of things.
Thank you. I have to go at this point. All right then. One more call and we head over to Facebook. 0803-827-6694, 0803-221-6973. And okay, let's hear you. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
My speaker.
Good morning.
I'm so happy this morning.
Thank you.
This is Akamere. Yeah, and Akamere is calling from Fiji. I want to react on that extract. I don't know the reason why our governors always try to support the military whenever they do things not according to the way they ought to do it. Like I remembered what happened in that extract, bad SARS, that one that happened at Lagos, Lekki. I remember when Sanwo-Olu come out, immediately he does debunk, telling us that no casualty, no people, that we should come and show them the body of the people that was killed. And from that time till now, we don't hear anything about it again. And this governor has come out because the military was telling us that they got the information that the terrorists are using that as their base. Now the governor just come out and tell us he has banned that market. He has banned that before striking that, as my speaker has said. Did he give the locals information that they should avoid that market? All these things, all these killings. And I want for this government. But thank you, my speaker. You are trying. Thank you.
All right then. Let's head over to Facebook now.
Okay, so from Obibeke, the Smiling Angel, we have this other one from Chukwani Chukwudi from Awadobosi, Uchenna and Kama, Gosiso Chukwu, and who else? Okay, so these very people, I will thank you for following the station. Uchenna Numera, some for Zamfara State, also thank you for following. Then we'll get to the proper post. This one is from Nzakwa Celestine. He says, I thought they said U.S. troops are here in Nigeria, so where and what have they been able to do? Instead, the killings keep increasing, or have they been settled so they could look eyes right, while the terrorists keep having a field day? This is rather surprising. Okay. Rotratubia Wikechu Christopher from Abatan Suba says, we have descended so low that human lives are not valid anymore. That's why the government will justify their weaknesses and inexperience by continuing air bombing of civilians, and nothing happens. Nobody takes the blame. Errors from the military are swept under the carpet, and we move on as if nothing happened. Irene's Ijimbwe from Iwadam Fan Settlement, he says the issues of killing civilians with bandits is not something we should be shouting about. Any civilian found with a bandit inside forest is also a bandit. While the killing in Borno State was not done inside the forest, it was done in the market. Master B JP says, no doubt the present government is systematically adopting a one-party system. And the Chair Billion says, okay, he said, Tony talks about security agents using body cameras, and he says he's asking how many countries in Africa are their security agents using body cameras. Our secret challenges cannot be defeated with just body cameras. And Ugochukwu Frank says some weird people claim that the civilians were culpable because they were around terrorists infested area. Can you imagine? So these innocent people who we killed should leave their villages where life is cheaper, where they have their farms. The military was incompetent, or maybe they did this intentionally. Dr. Mrs. Molebra from Owerri says, Amopiton Moscow, he has lost the confidence of Nigerians, and when trust is lost, everything is lost. INEC has become a very serious threat to our democracy, an institution that is supposed to be an impartial umpire. It was Martin Luther King Jr. who said that our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. So all the governors are not enough for them. Why is opposition giving them sleepless nights? Nigerians, we have slept too much. Now it's time to arise, because it is our duty to bring this country out of the quagmire. And a Christian Omunakwe says we have insecurity presently in the country because opposition are distracting President Tinubu with politics. President Tinubu will stop insecurity in Nigeria after bearing opposition politically. And Community Okeke says the airstrike was insensitive because how can you strike a market without proper investigation and information? So these are the reactions we have on our Facebook page now, and we thank you for dropping there.
All right, Tony, quickly, your last word.
Well, we must, do something. Somebody was asking if the body worn camera was actually referring how many African countries do wear such. South Africa does. Ghana is doing everything possible to launch it. Ghana will be launching it any moment from now.
Besides, we're not the giant of Africa for nothing.
Apart from that, you have a central policing system. Most of these countries we are talking about have a decentralized policing system. That makes surveillance, vigilance, monitoring more closer to the people, and where people also have overriding power on how these things are done. But we have a centralized policing force. South Africa that has decentralized policing force. They have body-worn cameras. Ghana is about to launch it. But I know that such discussions are ongoing in Nigeria. We wouldn't just say that we are not privy to the fact that body-worn camera discussions are ongoing, but we are saying that as we are launching our state police, local government police, community police, body-worn camera should also be inclusive.
All right.
Monitoring is everything.
Very
I can't
important.
give you anything without monitoring how you perform that duty.
Thank you very much for your analysis today, Tony. Frankly,
welcome.
your parting shots, please.
Well, we keep on encouraging our military, to go ahead do their work. But for me, from what happened in Borno State, I would prefer a better answers to the questions we'll be asking. Like I said, they should go ahead to identify those who were injured. If there are bodies that can be identified, they should also identify the bodies so that we get a better communication. It's possible that if you have a good intel that terrorists have mixed up with locals, there are some situations where military will decide to eliminate because they believe that this is their good chance to do that. But what I'm saying, if that is the situation, we should have a better communication. Let's have a good analysis, or let's have a good explanation of what happened. Because, like I said, it has become repeated incidents, and we cannot continue this very well. Moreover, U.S. soldiers are in Nigeria helping us with intelligence. I suppose that there could have been some level of expertise in identification so that these stories can be minimized. I rest my case this very way.
All right, then. I am also going to hope that the mayors of some of the places that we have pointed out that are culpable for laying traps for unsuspecting citizens swing to action and actually have clear markings. You do not keep something and expect that somebody would at all times not know that you kept it there. You don't set traps for people, the same people you're supposed to protect and help stay informed. We'll be back tomorrow 9:15 down to 11 a.m. right here, 104.7, your seriously authentic station, Udala Radio. Until then, I am Chisom Chinedu, and thank you for your calls and your contributions. Still safe to say happy Easter to you. There's been a lot of Easter activities, and I'm pretty sure that you are enjoying all of it. I'm leaving you in the hands of Dwayne the Stoic. The song is This Fight, and this is going out to all the persons who fell to the bomb blast over the weekend.